fellow scholars. Good morning.
Last night, we partied together at Zook, and the night was endless. And for those of you who were there at the end, how many of you watched Birch perform Endless on stage? He's going to do it again this afternoon, if he has a voice.
I have no voice, guys, because I stayed up all night.
Can you whisper all morning?
Studying.
No, that was one of our teams. They're still studying for the bowl.
All right, guys. Oh, see, look at that. Wonderful. It sounded gorgeous. Last day, global round. Y'all excited? I'm sad it's the last day.
Really? I'm going to be sad for months. It's this postpartum depression thing.
I know. All right, so what do we got in store this morning?
Today we begin with our second debate showcase. These are the seniors who were nominated by their judges to lead us in a debate this morning. There will be 8 seniors debating on stage. This is a 4-on-4 debate showcase, which means we'll need 2 more chairs on stage.
Ooh. You know, just get one more. We have a basketball team.
We could, but we just don't have the equipment. We could hang a basket from the small screens. Similarly, however, to yesterday, there will be a panel of expert judges who are your peers, and then guest speakers who are, in fact, again, members of the community who can join the conversation and bring voices from all over the world to the topic at hand. And today's topic is one about the world.
Why are there pills on their tables?
I have no idea, Birch, but this is not good. We're not doing a medicine debate.
What are these things?
I think they're those airplane toothbrushes.
Oh my God, they're pens. What? Where'd you guys get these?
You know, Birch, it's possible we've never seen these, but they've probably been at the merch booth all week.
Wait, they're selling? Oh, it says the World Scholar. What? Are we selling these?
I think we are.
Are you serious?
Tell me they don't cost very much.
They're really cute. They're 5 cents each? That's awesome.
I think we might be about to undercut the merch booth.
Okay, anyways.
So, I know it was a long night for many of you, and it's been a challenging few days, both academically and physically. This can be an exhausting event, whether it's debating 3 times in a row, or finding a bus at the end of the day, or dancing until midnight. So let's jump right into today's speakers. They'll be invited onto stage. Thank you for the extra chairs. We'll begin with the affirmative team. Would you like to go first, Birch?
From India.
It sounds like half our audience is from India.
Let's just get them all up here. From Delhi Private School.
No, Delhi Public School, sorry.
Oh, from Delhi Public School. That's a completely different school.
Public, private. From Delhi School.
Harshit Kumar, come on down.
Our second speaker on the affirmative team is not from India,
but close.
But from Indonesia. From the Mentari International School, it's Farrell Mahastra. It's like they knew we were about to call them.
I know, it's Farrell. I called him Pharrell yesterday.
I've been mispronouncing that name all across the year.
All right, y'all. Next up, we got Kenya. From, not the pizza topping, but the Paponi School, Winnie Kiberu.
Birch, can you teach me how to use my voice so that I end up sounding like you?
Oh yeah, just scream for like 4 hours straight and you'll sound like me.
I had the awards ceremony today, which can be 4 hours long. Actually, not that bad. All right, our fourth speaker on the affirmative team is not from Kenya and is not from a country that sounds like Kenya. From Taiwan, from the International Bilingual School at Hsinchu, it's Lucy Kuo.
Ladies and gentlemen, that is your affirmative team. Give a big round of applause.
Birch, right now the affirmative team is 3 alpacas.
You know, it's an alpaca for every middle of the seat.
Welcome.
All right, your negative team from the UAE. And hopefully no mistakes here. It's the Indian School Dubai. Kirtana Subramani, come on down.
Our second negative speaker comes to us from the Republic of Korea, from Hankook Academy of Foreign Studies. Hafs. If there's no cheer at the sound of Hafs, I'm going to assume they might have slept in. Hafs. This is worrisome.
Oh, there's one Hafs.
Jung Yun Bae.
All right. Not from the UAE, but from the UK. From Walthamstow Academy, Miriam Benaish. That last name. And last but not least,
our final speaker, unless we need a substitute, is from the People's Republic of China. From the American International School of Guangzhou, Dylan Galt. And our panel of judges today begins with Mohammed Zaris Zakaria,
Maria Maleva,
Adrian Vigil,
Vinayak Chawla,
James Naylor Pratt,
Ashika Jain,
Madeline Go,
Alexander Pryor Wendisford,
and Thin Ki Few Nine.
Come on down to the judging seats.
Negative speakers, we need you to be a bit more positive about getting on stage. We're going to give you 15 seconds before we move to our backup negative speakers. Oh, I see some coming. No, they're judges. 10 seconds. All right, backup speakers it is. Oh, I see a voice of desperation in the back of the theater. Oh, they were upstairs. No worries, you came a long way. Welcome to the stage, everyone. A big round of applause for one of our negative speakers. And this is Dylan Galt from Guangzhou. And our backup speaker is from Malaysia, from the College Yayasan side of Malaysia, Mandolin Tan. You may begin your long walk down here. And in the meantime, actually, we shouldn't show the motion quite yet.
You know, we should have set up like a zip line or like some type of like Tarzan swing or something from the second.
I think there's a way to climb through the box seats. I tried it.
Through the catwalks?
Well, let's get us to the next slide, Grace, if we could, as we begin to look toward the motion. Oh, one more member of our panel, Mr. Shardul Singh. Today's motion. Resolved.
Should we get a drum roll here?
That geeks should run the world. We may be biased, but the panel will not be. You have 12 minutes to prepare. Let's cue up some music.
Time's too fast, I can't let go. I'm holding tight, I'm in slow-mo. So close your eyes and lose control. Oh, don't hold back, I'll lead the show.
One thing I'll say straight to your face, I'm not on this earth to take up space. I came to rock, I came to roll. You came for bills, I came for gold. I came to scream, I came to break. I'll leave my mark, make no mistake. Cause I'm the greatest, I'm stupendous. I'm incredible, I'm tremendous. I'm as real as it gets, you're just pretending. I'm fighting back, you're defending. I'm flying high, you're descending. I can feel it, man, my will is strengthened. So make a choice then, take a stand, man. My victory's guaranteed, yours is pending. Dreams are only meant for the relentless. Go ahead, take a chance, just attempt it.
Tonight will be endless. I'll leave you so breathless. I don't want to end this. Tonight will be endless.
And time is up. Without further ado, let's call forward the first of our affirmative speakers. Please introduce yourself and begin your speech.
All right. You have 4 minutes. You may begin when you're ready. Is the mic at an appropriate level?
Hello?
Yeah. All right. Nice.
Honorable judges, fellow debaters, and esteemed audience, good morning, and my name is Lucy Kuo, the first speaker of the affirmative team, arguing for the motion that geeks should run the world. As the first speaker, I'll be defining the terms, setting the basic premises, and my following second, third, and fourth speakers will further elaborate upon my points and rebut the negative team. So first of all, to begin this debate, first allow me to define the term geeks. A geek, my opponent team may bring up the topic of nerds, but ladies and gentlemen, nerds are not the same as geeks. Nerds are socially inept, while geeks may not be. Geeks can get things done. They are enthusiastic in certain fields. They are not enthusiastic in just fields of things like math or science, but there are also literature geeks, art geeks, music geeks. There are enough geeks to go around the world, and there are enough geeks to take all the positions necessary to run the world. A geek is an enthusiast or an expert. That's an intellectual pursuit of a hobby. Now, for example, in Divergent, the people who are suited to rule the world are not the ones who are the most popular. They do not particularly seek to get everyone's admiration or attention, but they are invested in their own topic, unlike nerds who may be socially inept. Now, a person who runs the world, what does that mean? It is someone who dominates most areas of the world. A person that holds official positions or positions of influence. For example, people like government officials or CEOs who run businesses and companies. Essentially, they rule the world. Now, for example, take Birch, Zach, and Dan. Birch, the director of social stuff, and he made a song named Endless just for WSC. Zach, with his amazing hair, and our tournament director. And of course, we have Dan, who's the leader of everything. They rule WSC. They are so passionate, they're so invested in WSC. They spend all their time making this wonderful competition for all the scholars around the world to come here. Would you call them geeks? They are geeks, because they're so invested, they're so enthusiastic about WSC. Now, don't you want the world to be run by such a team? Don't you want the world to be run by a team of passionate, enthusiastic people such as Birch, Zach, and Dan? Now, we need a team of passion. We need a team of enthusiasts, and we need a team of intellectual individuals. They know how to run our world, and these people are called geeks. Geeks possess all the abilities that the world may need. So once again, I would like to state the argument that the world should be run by geeks. Thank you.
All right. Wow. First time being applauded for being a geek. That's a lot of firsts going on. All right, we got 60 seconds to the negative team. Can we get some music on, please? All right, 1 minute is up. Everyone, make some noise. First speaker, negative team. All right, you have 4 minutes. You may begin when ready.
A very good morning to one and all present here. The team opposition is today going to argue for the motion that geeks should not run the world. The first delegation would like to state the definition, the modified definition of geeks, as well as rebut certain points and bring out our own points. The third speakers will be talking more about rebuttal and our points, and the last speaker will be summarizing. Geeks. Geeks, according to the New American Oxford Dictionary, are exactly defined as unfashionable or socially inept people who do have an obsession. They also do get things done, but they are people who have a certain degree of obsession that they are called socially inept by the rest of the society. Let's look at some rebuttal points. WSE is run not just by geeks. It's run by a wide range of people, jocks, geeks, and people with a wide range of interests. They hand over alpacas. They dance as well. They are not only interested in subjects, and they do not have that degree of obsession that makes them geeks. They are normal, sociable people. Also, if geeks do run the world, geeks are a small amount of the population. If this small amount of population is always going to keep running the world, the whole diversity in the world, the other types of people in the world, they're not going to get representation. Our world should have an open system wherein geeks can run the world, but other people must also be allowed to run the world as people choose. Geeks, we're all different. We are not always intellectually obsessed. Not all geeks have that level of charisma that is needed to have good international relations by which our countries can develop enormously, because geeks have a certain subject of interest. For example, as stated by the proposition team, they may be art geeks or science geeks or music geeks, but geeks do not have that wide range of charisma or attitude that is needed to have good international relations and develop your economy. And that's exactly what we need for today's world. We need leaders who are just not geeks, but are everything else also. We need leaders of different kinds, and we need a group of people coming together. And that group must not just be geeks. It must have geeks, but it must have every other sort of person in the world. Let's also look at if a geek leader came into position. He or she could be a misrepresentation of the whole of geekdom. Sometimes geekdom is cool, okay? And if that geek leader happens to be some sort of bad example, the whole of the general population will tend to stereotype geeks as that particular person who they don't like. And geeks are always not like that either. So by having a certain type of representation, majority may not be exactly supported or represented by that leader, and also that leader might become a misrepresentation for the whole of geekdom. The next point that we'd like to talk about is that there's another rebuttal point. If a person holds a position and he happens to be a geek, then let's talk about what will happen if only geeks come again and again. Is that good for the world? It's really not. So what we're trying to talk is that in the small level, geeks have only one sort of obsession. They're not general or varied. And in the larger level, we need other type of people to also come and show the world what they can do apart from just geeks. So this is what we have to say, the team proposition. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you very much. We got 60 seconds to the affirmative team. Let's get that music back on. 1 minute is up. Can we make some noise for the second speaker on the affirmative team?
Good morning, everyone. I'm the second speaker for the affirmative team. I'm Uneducated, and I do think that this world should be run by geeks. How many of you consider yourself geeks? Raise your hands. I do. I think I'm a geek, and I'm proud of it. During your time here at the World Scholars Cup, I'm sure you've all met people who you can relate with, because we all share one thing in common. We're enthusiastic, and we want to learn more from each other. And this shows we are geeks. We have an obsession, we have a drive to learn more from each other, to try and socialize so that we can build ourselves. So is that wrong? No. I think that makes us better people, well-rounded as well. So wouldn't it be nice to live in a world where we could all be friendly like this? We can all teach each other something, we can all learn from each other. It would be a nice world to live in, would it not? The first speaker from the opposition, said that if geeks did run the world, it would only be one group of people running the world, and other people wouldn't be represented. But as geeks, we've all had those moments where we've been in the spotlight, we've been the top of the table, you know? And we've also had those moments where people tease us, people will be like, oh, you're obsessed with this, you're obsessed with that, and that makes us feel bad. So we have experienced everything, so we are therefore qualified to represent everyone, because we know what it feels like to be the top dog and the underdog. There are all kinds of geeks. When people say geeks, instantly you're thinking academics, you're thinking maths, sciences, but there are different types of geeks. There might be artistic geeks, there might be, like myself, I really like Model United Nations, and that makes me, you could say, political science geek. But they're all different types of geeks, and I think, again, that adds diversity to our world. In this world, we all need leaders. So why not leaders who are full of enthusiasm, leaders who are determined to teach people, to learn from people, leaders who are fun, leaders who will challenge you intellectually, physically, and creatively? Wouldn't that be a wonderful world to live in? I think it would be. Let's take examples of people who have really done well in our world today. Look at Mark Zuckerberg, look at Steve Jobs, look at Bill Gates. They were all geeks, and look at them now. They're dominating in their individual fields, are they not? So I think as geeks, we can do so much more for this world. This world would be a better place if it was run by geeks, because we are united by our love and enthusiasm in our intellectual pursuit. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, everyone, make some noise. Second speaker on the negative team.
Sorry, take a brief moment to readjust here.
Oh, you're one of those, huh?
Sorry.
That's all good?
Okay, yeah, that's great. Thanks. Good morning. I'd like to thank the opposition today. I'd like to thank my teammates, and I'd like to thank our judges. Now, primarily, the opposition has provided a definition and 4 examples. 1 example given by the first speaker, and 3 examples given by the second speaker. And today we'll show you that those examples and their definition are fundamentally flawed and off the point of the discussion for today, ultimately leading to a rebuttal of the very tenets of their argument. Primarily, they have defined geeks in the realm of geek versus nerd. Now, this is not a debate about the least of all evils. This is not like comparing a cheetah to a Maserati and saying a cheetah is not fast because it can't beat a car. Geeks, in comparisons to nerd, we can argue about that all day, and perhaps there is a difference, and we can differentiate in terms of social ineptitude. But that doesn't mean that geeks, in terms of the global stage, are not socially inept. The fundamental definition that we have given out from the New Oxford American Dictionary still holds. Geeks are socially inept to a degree, and they are also obsessive. Secondly, they gave the example of the World Scholars Cup administration. We agree, yes, the World Scholars Cup administration is passionate and perhaps obsessive, but they do not have the same degree of societal perception on them, especially when judged by people, very similar people we see in the audience today. They don't have the same societal perception that we imbue in geeks, and thus they will not be, our treatment of them is very different than the treatment of geeks if we ask them to lead the world. We are comparing apples to oranges here once again. Now, what minimalistic argument actually has been put out boils down to 3 points. One is that the desire to learn that we see in geeks means that they also have a desire to lead. Leadership, the desire to learn, does not ensure the ability or the capacity to lead. Ultimately, society, and we see this time and time again in the leaders that we elect through democracy, society does not want people who wish to learn. Society wants people who wish to lead. Secondly, the second speaker today said that the experience and difficulty that geeks have, the experience in the societal perception that we give geeks, and the difficulty, the arduous nature of going from day to day will allow them the ability and the experience to lead on a global stage. My question to you is, if we treat geeks one-on-one like we do and force them to work through life just to make it through, do we really expect that to be different on a global stage with billions and billions of people? Experience will not help if we are locked in a cycle of difficulty. We will treat geeks the same way as we do here. We will treat them the same way on the global stage, if not more harshly, and experience will do nothing. It is nature that matters, not nurture here. And finally, they said that the diversity of the interests we see in geeks will lead to a diversity of leadership. Now, it is true that geeks have a diversity of interests. This is inherent to the notion of anyone that is passionate. However, we are not looking for a diversity of interest in leadership. We are looking in the ability, in interest, we're looking in the ability specifically to lead. Again, a diversity of interest connects to the notion of learning. Learners, people that spend their time in classrooms and enveloping themselves in topics and subjects, are not necessarily equated as directly and as linearly as the opposition has put it to people that can stand up in front of everyone and make a decision on in the split of a second. Thank you. Now, finally, I'd like to summarize the points that we have made in the order in which we make them. We must look at this from a macrocosmic standpoint, a microcosmic, and then a microcosmic standpoint. We must go from large to small. From a macrocosmic standpoint, monochromatic leadership breeds monochromatic decisions and results in minimal support from the populace. If we have one group of society leading all of us, we will likely only have one group actually supporting them. And secondly, from a microcosmic standpoint, the negative, as I have said and as my teammates have said, the negative societal perception of geeks, regardless of their innate capacity to lead or to learn, will make it difficult time and time again for them to stand up and actually make decisions that will affect society. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. All right, 60 seconds, the affirmative team. Let's get some music up and the talent list up. Everyone make some noise for the third speaker on the affirmative team.
Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm the third speaker of the affirmative team, and I'm here to address all of their previous points and reiterate ours along with some new ones. You see, what they've been saying throughout this entire debate has been based on the assumption and the premise that all geeks are socially inept and that is their inherent nature. We don't agree with this, and we never have from the first time we spoke. Just look at the facts. Everyone here, I think, can be classified as a geek. And I don't think you all would consider yourselves socially inept. And even as he said, no one geek can ever be as charismatic as the leaders of today, but he himself spoke here as charismatically as any world leader can. You see, I'm complimenting the opposition here. They're very charismatic, they're very intelligent, and we also classify them as geeks, and we don't understand why they're not allowed to run the world. I think they can be very good leaders. They also said that nature matters, not nurture in this case. We don't understand this as well. They also said that leaders have to be born inherently as leaders. They can't learn to be leaders. We also don't understand this because leaders have to be educated to be good leaders. There are too many uneducated leaders in this world, and we need more geeks to rally humanity in this sense. And just look at the case of Barack Obama. He was educated in Harvard Law School, and so far, he has been quite a good leader relatively to other leaders who are uneducated. And we contend that leaders who are uneducated are more prone to become misinformed ideologues. And we can go so far as to say that uneducated leaders are too focused on their own ideals that they can't see everything else. This is different from our case of the geeks. Yes, they are focused on a certain subject, but they are intelligent enough. They recognize other opinions, and they can see that. This is also different from leaders of today who are not necessarily geeks. They're more of generalists who see things in too many perspectives. That is their folly. They can't focus on one side of an argument. They focus on 2, 3, 4, or even 10. This is why they can't make good decisions. And now, returning to my own team's points, geeks specialize in their own fields, in positions of government. This is what makes them so efficient. So, imagine a social studies geek. For example, he would work in the Ministry of Agriculture. This is exactly what he should do because he's been enthusiastic about this his entire life. And presumably, he's been educated as well because of his interest. He sought his own education. And again, to our own case about Birch, Zach, and Dan, they are educated people. They graduated from Stanford, and now they've rallied more than 2,300 people in the same room. To conclude, we say here on the affirmative that the future belongs to the race, not the race, I say, the group of the geeks, and that the geeks belong to the future. And with that, I beg you to vote for the affirmative as the victor of this debate. Thank you.
All right. All right, let's get 60 seconds. And also, everyone, put your hands together for the third speaker on the negative team. All right, you have 4 minutes. You may begin when you're ready.
Barack Obama might have been a geek, but the only difference with their case is that Barack Obama worked his way to the top and he has proven his potential to become a leader in the first place. We agree that geeks have the potential to become world leaders, but we tell you that geeks shouldn't become the world leaders in the first place because, first of all, it would cause societal perception towards them to degrade, which causes them to be unable to rise to their full potential as to who they are. Because we tell you that geeks serve a certain role in society, and that certain role should be played by them, and we should not allow them to rule the world based on these 3 reasons that I'll bring to you today. Yes, we agree that geeks are enthusiastic in certain fields, but what is needed of them is more than just enthusiasm. It's passion, it's care and love towards the people and society. It's a certain level of compassion they need towards their own people to be able to rule the world in the first place. Even so, we tell you that no one should be given the power to rule the world totalitarianly, to rule the world in absolute, to rule the world totally. Why? Because first of all, this serves as a dictatorship, and this is exactly what we're trying to argue to you today. First of all, no one should have the right to totalitarian power. Why? Because this forms a dictatorship, and when a political leader only acts in their society's best interest, we tell you that this brings about a lot of harms to a society. Why? First level, when geeks are given the opportunity to rule the world, instead of letting them use a conventional way where they work to the top, we tell you that this will cause mass retaliation, which will be further clarified in my second point. Next, a diverse population is needed within the world, which is already brought up by my first speaker. Why? How can I won't be able to imagine a world with only one type of people. I mean, within this hall itself, we have many types of people. We have geeks, we have jocks, we have nerds, we have a lot of types of people, and this is what brings the world together. Different interests. And if the world was only ruled by one type of person, it would make a very dull and lifeless world. And I wouldn't be able to imagine that, because within this hall itself, we are united as a whole for the same passion, for the same objective, our love for alpacas. This is what makes the world so special. If the world was ruled by only geeks, geeks and only geeks, this would harm society. This would harm social movements. Second of all, why no one should be given the absolute power to rule the world, which forms a dictatorship and the totalitarian rule, which only serves in the best interest of one type of person. Even if they wanted to argue to us that these geeks will be able to consider others and work based on everyone's collective best interest, we tell you that it's human nature. When a person is given total power, totalitarian power, this person will manipulate the rules towards the benefit of their own society, and we tell you that this is harmful. Status quo is perfect as it is now, and we tell you that their proposal shouldn't stand in today's case. Next point on how retaliation would now occur. On the first level, if geeks wanted to become leaders, we don't object them becoming leaders in the first place. They can, but they need to prove their potential and to show the world that they are able to become leaders. Like, for example, Barack Obama. He might have been a geek, but he has proven his potential. We tell you, follow the conventional way of picking the world leader, because this is the best way to see if you're capable of becoming a leader in the first place. If you only allow geeks and geeks only to rule the world, this will cause mass retaliation, because people now who are capable of ruling the world would now perceive the government as being biased to only the geeks because they're the only ones allowed to rule the world. This policy creates an imbalance between society, and we tell you that mass retaliation will cause these normal people to go against these geeks in the very first place. And this will harm the geeks, because when these people are angry that the geeks are able to be given totalitarian power just because they're geeks, we tell that they will attack these geeks because you're given an unfair advantage to become a leader when you haven't even proven yourself to be capable. So what have I told you today? What would happen if geeks were given the power to rule the world? We argue on the dichotomy of when geeks are negatively affected by this, and when geeks are harmed by this policy itself. We tell that it's not in the best interest of society in the first place, and we tell you, what if a political meltdown happens? Society will now point a finger at these geeks and say, you are the cause of this political meltdown, and this will cause societal perceptions towards them to turn even more negative, and this is harmful towards social dynamics in itself. So follow a negative sides policy if you want to protect the geeks, if you want to protect the society as a whole, to maintain peace, then go with side negative.
All right, thank you very much. And we have 60 seconds to the affirmative team. Let's get some music up. Make some noise for the last speaker on the affirmative team. You know, why couldn't you and Dylan have talked right after each other?
That would have been easier.
All right, you have 4 minutes.
Hello.
You may begin when you're ready.
Okay. Just a second. Yep. Good morning, everyone. Since I'm the last speaker from the affirmative team, I just have a few points that I got through the entire debate, and I'm going to go over them one by one. And I'll really move along the words of the topic here. Geeks. The opposition team tried to define geeks using the old definition taken from a dictionary. Now things change, the world changed, and definitions change. So we cannot use the old definition of geek because it is not relevant anymore. In the modern society, geeks are not people who are weird or eccentric. Geeks are just like you and me, normal people. They're only differentiated by having enthusiasm and interest in a certain topic, or even a group of topics. Geeks can be any type of geek. I have a friend who is an international relationships geek. He studies about the UN, he studies about all the countries and their foreign policies. I tell you, why can't he go to the UN and be an excellent diplomat? Why can't he? Geeks again. Now, the opposition team said that geeks have no charisma. Steve Jobs was a geek. He was a big geek. Didn't he have charisma?
Now, there was this speech given by Einstein, and he said that there are three things that drive people to achieve. One is the desire for social recognition. Two is the desire to put others down by being more knowledgeable than them. And third is a genuine interest in knowledge and a genuine desire to apply that knowledge. And geeks have that genuine desire. In this entire world, if anyone has ever earned the right to run the world, it is the geeks, because of this genuine desire that drives us. Okay, so now moving along the words, should. The third speaker here, she said that it would create a totalitarian state, and we should not do that. Well, we're not saying you should give the keys to the entire world to the geeks, go and become a dictator. We're saying that ideally, geeks should run the world. There's a big difference between ruling and running. We're saying geeks should run the world, not rule the world. Now, there was this big issue in the States, in the US, if any of you know about it, SOPA and PIPA. There were the laws regarding internet privacy. And like the general public was almost unaware of it, but a few geeks took the initiative. They started a petition, and they got votes, and they stopped the law from being passed, and that saved us all. That saved everyone living in the States from invasive privacy laws. Now, my uncle, he had to buy a TV. So he went to the store, and he just asked the salesman, okay, which one is good? And he's like, this one? Okay, I'll buy it. When he came back, I said, you should have read the reviews first. You should have get acquainted with the technologies and the terms. So he said, you're a geek. You should have come with me. That's the thing with this world. Geeks are actually more suitable to understanding the nuances and the complexities of stuff. And the general public, they actually want someone who is a geek to make decisions for them. And there was this negative and positive social perception. What I think is that if geeks run this world, their public perception would in fact increase, because people would realize the worth of their knowledge, the worth of their passion, and they would see that they're an indisposable part of the society. Now, there was this point about Barack Obama. The speaker herself said that Barack Obama was a geek. And she herself said that he proved himself. Now, what does that tell you? Geeks prove themselves all over this world. Be it Barack Obama, be it Steve Jobs, be it Mark Zuckerberg, even Warren Buffett. Warren Buffett was an investment geek. That can be it. Diversity. There was a point about diversity. Geeks understand diversity. In fact, geeks understand marginalization better than most people, because geeks have been marginalized for a long, long time. And therefore, they're more sensitive to social issues, they're more sensitive to other voices, because they know people can be different. So they're in fact better suited to lead a more diverse world. And that's it. And so I say, the future belongs to the geeks. They have earned the right to understand it. They have earned the right to run it, not rule it, run it. And so the geeks should run the world. Thank you.
All right. All right, thank you very much. We got 16 more seconds to the negative team. Ladies and gentlemen, your last speaker for the debate showcase. Last final speaker on the negative team. Big round of applause. And don't forget, after this, it's your turn to share, so start thinking about what you might want to say. Yes. I feel like we should have some debate about like nutrition should be standardized among the world's countries or something.
Okay, hello, my name is Miriam. I'm from the UK, representing Walthamstow Academy in East London, and I'm the final speaker for the negative motion, for the negative side, opposing the motion that geeks should run the world. And I want to highlight this fact, run the world. And although they drew a distinguishment between run and rule, I'd like to rebuttal that later on. First and foremost, I'd like to rebuttal several points made by the proposing team. Firstly, they propose this motion that geeks should rule the world. However, they say, well, art geeks can rule the world, and science geeks, and social studies geeks too. Basically, they're just describing the majority of the population, because I could argue that each individual person in this world is good at least one thing. So therefore, they're not actually proposing anything. They're just saying anyone can be in power as long as they work hard. And we need to draw a distinguishment. Just because you're not a geek, it doesn't make you any less intellectual, and it doesn't make you it doesn't mean that you will work less hard than anyone else. In fact, we can actually draw the attribution of geeks to actually being naturally gifted. And they said that geeks have the right to run the world, which is completely something that we shouldn't be saying, because everyone has the right to be in power as long as they work hard and as long as they have the leadership skills to satisfy the needs of the people who need it. Secondly, I'd like to address the manipulation of definitions that keeps going on between the proposing team. First, they say that geeks are this, they're science geeks, then there are geeks, then there are people that are charismatic, then there are people that they work hard. You need to settle on one definition if you're going to propose that one group of people should rule the world. And it's just a ridiculously optimistic idea that different types of geeks are somehow representative. We are not all the same person. We need different types of people to reflect that. And to say that one group of people, i.e. geeks, should run the world is absolutely ridiculous. And also the opposition seems to address special interests in the room, because I feel that we can all relate somehow. However, what goes on outside the room, what goes on outside this hall is the real world. And since the motion says that geeks should run the world, we should be listening to them, not the people inside this room. Secondly, I'd like to rebut the idea that geeks are focused and they address one side of the argument. However, since this is an argument, this is a debate, there's going to be more than one side, and we need people that address the 2 sides, 3 sides, and the 10 sides that the third speaker mentioned. And lastly, I'd like to rebut the idea that they say that we say that geeks are socially inept. We are not saying that geeks are socially inept. We are saying that the perception of geeks is that they are socially inept. And unfortunately, perception is hard to change. Although that the idea of socially inept geeks has changed, the perception is still there. So unless you can change the perception first and then come back and tell us that geeks should run the world, then you can't do that. And lastly, enthusiasm. Geeks have enthusiasm. Geeks are this, geeks are that. Well, we're just saying that, oh, enthusiastic people should run the world, and art geeks should run the world, and science geeks should run the world. Basically, there's no focus at all in the proposing team's argument. Therefore, they're not actually proposing anything. So to summarize my team's arguments, I'd like to say, first and foremost, diversity. By objectifying legislation to a hyper-diverse population in the form of a unilateral ruling body, i.e. geeks, which is one type of people, no matter how much the proposition argument says that they aren't, ruling the world is not only dangerous, but it's also dictatorial. Secondly, relatability. Geeks, no matter how much we like to disagree with it, are a minority group of people. It's all dependent on the society's perception. And a unilateral body of authority, which is essentially an extremely authoritative system. So the key word here is perception. If people perceive something to be true, it not only becomes true, but it becomes the truth. Therefore, it's how you're perceived that enables you to be a good leader, not whether you're good at maths or whether you're a science geek or whether you're an art geek. And lastly, I'd like to conclude on the idea that the phrase "run the world" is actually extremely dangerous, because it opens up the doors to different other kinds of people running the world. So are you actually saying that running or ruling the world, however you want to say it, is justifiable? We are saying that not only should geeks not run the world, but no one group of people should run the world. It should be a result of collaboration and hyper-diverse ideas. How do we live in a world where one type of people run the world? And I'd like to end on a quote by Oscar Wilde, that to live is the rarest thing of all. Most people just exist, and that is all. Thank you.
Everyone, one more round of applause for both teams that have led us in this debate, affirmative and negative. And now, Birch will lead the panel of judges outside to a special conclave where they will discuss the outcome of the debate. And in the meantime, I invite you to come to the microphones to join this conversation. I know there's some students upstairs. Most of you are downstairs today. Let's try to keep our remarks a little shorter than yesterday because we all want to have as many voices in this conversation as possible. I know it can be tempting to keep going. I often suffer that temptation myself. And with that in mind, I'm going to hand this over to our first speaker here in this. I'm looking at you right now. Please begin, and then we'll move left, and today we'll go clockwise. Please start.
Hello, everybody. I'm Jasmine from Tsinghua International School, and I think that it isn't that if geeks are the runners of the world, there will be no diversity. It is that if you say that there is no diversity, if geeks ran the world, then you are not recognizing geeks as people. That people are more than just one type of person. They can be more diverse than just a geek. I can be more than a geek. So in a way, a person can be a geek and also in a way more than a geek. So labels are the things that restrict everyone in society from fully expressing their personality, and I think that that is the issue with this debate. Thank you.
Thank you very much for those words. Speaking as someone who is a geek, I do know geeks come in many types. Please, let's move over here to the gentleman holding an alpaca. Your mic may not be working. Let's move to the back, and we'll come back to you. To the second floor, I'm pointing at your group right there. Yes, please. Whoever's, yes, you begin.
It's not, oh.
Okay.
I'm Ewan from Jamera Primary School, and they say that geeks should also be with jocks and other types of people, but jocks and nerds are just type of geeks. Sports geeks and clever book geeks.
Thank you. Sometimes I wish I was a sports geek as well. Let's come back down to the bottom. Is your microphone back up and running?
Is it working?
Yeah, yes, it is. Thank you.
Okay, my question, I'm Anish from Bahrain, and my question for the affirmative team is it not true that one group of people saying that they have the right to run the world in past times in history is exactly what led to a terrible totalitarian regimes such as North Korea today or the Nazi regime in Germany?
There is a lot to that argument in almost every scenario. We're going to switch kitty cat corner to the top diagonal. I'm pointing at you guys over there. Yep, I see you in the green jacket.
Hello, Aditi Sharma from our own English High School, Dubai. Well, I would like to state that the motion says that geeks should rule the world. Now, when we talk about the world, something as big as the world needs like division of labor. Now, don't you think a geek, a specialized person, would be better in running these sectors than a person who's generalized? For running the world, we need specialization, not generalization. Thank you.
Thank you, and thank you all for keeping your remarks concise today. It really means a lot to me to see more voices in the conversation. We're going to come back to our original microphone over here.
Hello, I'm Iwa Jung from Tsinghua International School. If I sound a bit weird, it's because I'm kind of cold right now.
I bet the Scholars Ball had something to do with that as well.
I don't want to seem nitpicky, but I just want to point out a point of consistency to the negative team. Firstly, you said by definition that geeks should be socially inept according to the American Oxford Dictionary or something. And then you said something about if people want to like select someone as leader, then they look for leadership and not learning. But afterwards, I think it was the third speaker, they said something about they are not entirely against geeks running the world. It's just that geeks should prove themselves, which leads to the fact that so they are basically saying that geeks can prove themselves. And therefore, if geeks prove themselves, then that means a geek is a good leader. But then they said that people will be marginalizing the geeks or something because they will see the geek part of them and discriminate against them. But because you said that people look for leadership, not learning, then shouldn't people concentrate on the leadership part of the geek more than the geekiness part? And that's basically what I wanted to say. Thank you.
Thank you. I kind of like the idea of like a rite of initiation for geeks, like a Buffy marathon or something before you could really have cred. Let's move over here.
Hello, I'm Hisham from Bahrain, and my question is, most of this debate was from watching it, I figured it was more about what a geek is rather than whether they should rule the world. It was all about the definition of a geek, and I just think that no one actually tackled all the political problems or the economic problems that would make geeks who have specialized and devoted their lives to these subjects the ideal candidates to take away all these problems, such as the wars that are going on around in the world as to rid the world of all these problems. Thank you.
Thank you. And if I could have you guys do me a little favor in these lines, if you could look in front of you and look in back of you. If one of your own teammates is in this line directly adjacent to you, it's probably because you were seated close to the microphone. Try to step back and let someone from another school maybe intersperse you guys so we get more diversity of viewpoints. Of course, I know at every school there's a great diversity, but even so. And now let's move back to you, where we just had a student from JPS a few minutes ago. Who's our next speaker from the top left corner?
My name is Sean. I'm from Dubai, JPS. And
Carry on.
Well, the negative team thought the run the world was like a monarchy, but the run the world, not rule the world. Run would suggest like the UN. It would be a body of geeks or whichever people are going to run the world, and not just one single person. And I think that can change the view of the argument entirely. Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's great to hear you here at the Global Round. And now we move to this corner, where I see someone holding a microphone already.
Yeah, that's me. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm Alexandra Trung from Shenton College in Australia. I would like to say that the affirmative team stated something about a wonderful world. You're sort of proposing a utopia, which can never happen in this society, because there's always someone as the negative team said, who will go against the status quo and treat the geeks in a horrible manner. This could lead to resignation in long term. So how is this productive? And also, you said that there are different types of geeks. So if you have an art geek and a sport geek, how are you going to put them in a room together and sort of make some sort of decision and that will help the world? That's all I've got to say. Thank you.
Thank you. And from Australia, we move back down to our original microphone.
Good morning, everyone. I'm Singh from India, and I would like to ask a question to the negative team. There was a confusion between nature and nurture. So I would just like to say that everyone is born uneducated. There is no one who's born learned. Also, relating nature and nurture to a famous Indian Sanskrit doha, I would say, which reads, Guru Govind do khade Kaki Lagu pae, Bali hari Guru Apne Govind diyo dikhaye, which means that today it is the teachings of your teachers and what you learn that leads you to success and what you are. Therefore, it is the way you are nurtured that leads you to nature. And always nurture should come first and never nature. And the next thing, I would like to add something to the affirmative team's debate, saying that I missed the two terms, dedication and devotion, that also are qualities in geeks. So dedication and devotion equals to incentive to work, which in turn equals to their efforts, which accordingly brings welfare and satisfaction to the people. Thanks a lot.
Thank you, Mr. Singh. To you, yes.
Yes. Okay. Hi, I'm Serena from Malaysia. So, hi. Okay, what I'm trying to say, the negative team said that the administration of WSC here have led all of us together. But the question is here, we are talking about the world rather than just World Scholars Cup. Therefore, if you put the administration of World Scholars Cup outside, there might not be as good leaders they are here within the world today, because we are geeks. It doesn't mean everyone outside are geeks. And that's why. Thank you.
Thank you. We're very happy staying in here. To the top left corner, please.
Hello, I'm Rohan Grover from Millennium School. I have two questions for the affirmative team. My first question is that you said that geeks are obsessed with one thing. So how can they become presidents and prime ministers when they only focus on one part? And my second question also is, you told that geeks have potential and they deserve to rule the world. So are you meaning to say any person who's not a geek doesn't have potential, that he cannot rule the world?
Thank you for posing those questions for us to consider. Perhaps the next speaker will answer one of them.
I'm Vito from the Beacon Academy from the Philippines, and I would just like to say that geeks may be freaks with blinding passion, but the last time I checked, this blinding passion didn't blind us from seeing how brilliant we all are as leaders.
Thank you. And let's move down here where we get our next brilliant leader.
The affirmative side said that Barack Obama is a geek and he's doing relatively well ruling the United States. And the opposition side did agree that Barack Obama is a geek. So therefore, they're admitting that geeks are not socially inept because Barack Obama is not socially inept, which fails their definition of the motion, which gives the affirmative side the head in the debate. Thank you.
Thank you. And having seen his Facebook profile yesterday, I think we can all see that he's maybe concealing some of his geekiness. Let's move back over here. Or did I? Yeah, that's correct.
Good morning. My name is Ali. I would like to address the opposition team, specifically their point that geeks have some sort of social ineptability, and that would equate to most modern, well, they said that modern day leaders are leaders by nature and not geeks. And so that would equate to them essentially being leaders by their definition or assumption. But I would like to base my argument or challenge on 4,000 years of history. Throughout history, all we've seen is that the most civilized and the best of cities in history have all thrived upon their want and need for development and knowledge. So, for example, we can look at the Mesopotamian Empire, which was led by Nebuchadnezzar, who was himself a self-professed lover of astronomy. We can look at the Persian Empire, where we see Darius the Great, who loved architecture and built Persepolis. So my question to you is it the fact that that the world leaders today, who are just basically spurring up conflict, are doing this as a cause of the lack of geeks in our world community? Thank you.
Thank you. That's a great question to pose, and maybe some of you will be challenged to take on leadership roles worldwide. Birch, how many more questions or thoughts do you think we have time for?
About 5 more minutes worth.
All right. Let's move back up to JPS corner. Let's see who our next speaker is. Looking at you. Yes, in the sort of flannelly plaid shirt.
Sorry, I spaced out a bit. But
no worries, I do it all the time.
So I have to point out some flaws that the negative team made during their debate.
Tell us what school you're from.
I'm from Vietnam, Islamic American Academy.
Welcome.
So one of the flaws that the negative team made was that one of the speakers said that geeks can potentially rule the world, and we don't object that fact. That is them basically giving up their win to the opposing team. And that's a major flaw that I see that the affirmative team could have used against the negative team. So, thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for joining us from Vietnam for the first time, I believe, your school. Let's go to this back corner over there. Yes. Oh,
Hi,
no.
I'm Anastasia from Dubai English Speaking College, and I noticed that the negative team made the point that geeks would make bad leaders because if they did something wrong, then it would cast a negative impression of all geeks, and that just seems a bit irrelevant because it's the same as saying a bad male president would cause every single man to appear weaker. Thank you.
Thank you, that's a really good point. Let's come back down here to the geek in a hat, hopefully.
My name is Gurmehar and I'm from India. And I have certain clarifications to make with the affirmative team. The first 3 speakers of the affirmative team consistently state that the idea was to rule. whereas the fourth speaker of the affirmative team comes out and starts saying, not rule, but run. Furthermore, I believe the affirmative team completely lost its composition when the first speaker said that the people who are currently running the world are mostly the CEOs and the big shots of the commercial industries. And then the fourth speaker comes out and then he says that we are looking to run the world, not rule the world. Furthermore, the fourth speaker also questioned the definition of a geek given by the dictionary by the opposition team. However, the fourth speaker has failed to mention a new definition, has failed to mention the error in the previous definition, has not even stated where the definition has been taken from, and to what degree he would be altering it, and from where would he be altering it. And I would like certain clarifications regarding this. Thank you.
Thank you, and I hope there are those spaces and opportunities this afternoon for you to receive those clarifications. Let's have what we believe will be our final speaker, but the panel is not back, so Birch, if you go check on the panel. And you guys hold tight, we might have time for a couple more depending on the panel situation.
Hi, good morning. I'm Angad Singh from Amity International School, India. All right, so my basic point being, I don't get the point of classifying people into different cliques. We are all born human. We are all the same species, right? We grow as people. We learn as we grow. So it doesn't matter if you're a nerd, if you're a jock, if you're a geek, or even if you're a cheerleader. If you have the potential to become the president of a country, then you will become the president of the country. Your definition, your label, the label that you have been given by people around you, that should not matter to you. And if you have the potential, then I guess that you have the right to become the president of any country in the world that you want to.
Thank you, and congratulations on that stirring address. Let's go back up there to my favorite corner, yes.
Hello, I'm Via Menges from the German International School, Dubai. And I firstly wanted to say something to the negative team, since they mentioned that there would be some sort of discrimination against geeks if they would run the world. And I believe that if there were geeks, that people would rather get used to it, and that there wouldn't be this discrimination anymore. And we need to move away from the stereotype of geeks, that they are all small and have glasses and braces, since it's not like that. I mean, we're in a room full of geeks, and we all look different, we all are different, and therefore we should be accepted for who we are and what we look like. And if we already look at all the great leaders of the world, like Obama or Angela Merkel or whoever, these are geeks and they are accepted. And I don't believe that Obama was homecoming queen or something like that. He stayed at home and studied and learned and worked hard, and he's one of the world's greatest leaders. So that should be something that should have been mentioned. And geeks aren't only focused on one specific area. I mean, there are geeks that are interested in sports and arts, in everything. Therefore, I believe that they would definitely be perfect leaders for our world.
Thank you. Really appreciate that. And just out of curiosity, how many of you, was anyone in this room ever a homecoming queen or king? We have a few. Well, I see a few hands. Congratulations, of course. And let's move on to that corner. Birch says the panel is on its way back in momentarily with the verdict. So let's go to you for now.
Okay, hello, my name is Rika Yasui, and I am from SKG Shibuya Senior High School from Japan. And I just thought I could say something to generalize. Both sides were talking about like how Barack Obama was a good leader and things like that. However, I don't think that is a fact. It's a very debatable topic. So if you would want to use that as your, I don't know, a supportive thing for your debate, then you need to show like enough information to say that Barack Obama was a good leader. And also as a debate, you shouldn't use facts that are debatable to support your statement, because that would bring about a whole new debate. And also just one more thing, I believe it was the affirmative side, they were talking about how people were going to universities were geeks, but I don't think that is like a straight connection. Not everyone who goes to a university should be considered a geek. Thank you.
Thank you. And having attended a university that had its fair number of geeks, I can also tell you geekiness varies by student. The science fiction club at Harvard was a lot geekier than the non-science fiction club at Harvard. Back down here.
My name is Patricia, and I'm from Santa Laurentia School in Indonesia. And I would like to state some of my opinions. If this motion should pass, we would face a world full of discrimination and a lack of representation. Let's see, back in the time, the first female African-American astronaut was actually inspired to go to space because there was actually representation in television. There was an African-American female character in Star Trek, and it inspires her to go to space. And if we live in a world where geeks run the world, non-geeks will feel like, oh, I won't be successful, I won't run the world because I'm not a geek. And I may be a geek, I may be okay if this motion should pass, but I have faced discrimination and I don't want my fellow humans to face any more discrimination. Thank you.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, I'm afraid, and also happy to say, that I believe our panel is here with a verdict, which means that we have to cut this session short. Thank you guys for waiting so patiently. I hope we can continue this conversation in the hours to come. I see some hands in the air. I can't quite hear you from here. I'll come talk to you guys in a minute. Birch, would you like to introduce the panel? All right, I shall introduce the panel. Please let us know which side won this very vigorous debate.
Do you want us to tell you that now, or do you want us to give you the feedback first?
And you can keep your feedback to about 30 seconds, because we do need to get to the talent show. So, key sentences.
Okay. There were sort of two key questions that kept coming up in the debate. The first one was whether or not geeks are a single type of person, and whether or not the proposition referred exclusively to government leaders. I think on both those points, basically, the negative one, although I don't really have time to go into too much detail. So.
I think every speaker should work on the fact that they should set a roadmap for whatever they're going to say so they can rebut when they rebut, and they can state their points when they state their points. And introductions are also a huge part that should play into their speaking, because we want to listen to a person stating their points, not an audio just talking to us.
Yeah, I want to talk about definitions. Obviously, when this debate is so loaded and based on the definitions of geek, we were kind of disappointed by how the affirmative team only really got to the definitions by their fourth speaker. And also, moreover, there was the difference between run and rule, and they kind of use them interchangeably sometimes. And run and rule are very different things, because running, that doesn't have to be someone in a position of absolute authority. For example, a pilot running a plane, and you'd want them to be enthusiastic. And finally, guys, it's not Barack Obama, it's Barack. And that, my fellow Americans, is why we have handed this debate to the negative team. Thank you. God bless America.
Thank you very much, Mr. Obama. And congratulations to both our amazing teams. One more round of applause for both of them as we present them with their victorious medals.
So this is it, the moment I've been waiting for, the one I knew would come when everyone was hating on my fingers and two thumbs I was just hanging on. But now I'm at the top, and this is where I'm staying on. Cause I paid so fervently, blood, sweat, tears, they were my currency, doubt, scars, fears.